Okay, we're getting connected here. There we are. I'm checking everything, and we should be online. All right, yes, we are up on the Facebook group. Awesome. Hopefully we'll have some eyeballs jumping on here as we get going. Well, welcome to the High Achiever Show. I'm thrilled to have you here. Excited about my guest today. Over the past 5 years, this guy's just knocked it out of the park, man. He's helped over 650 families achieve home ownership. It's totaled about $235 million in closed loan volume. He's considered one of the top 75 loan originators based on Scotsman Guide magazine's top loan originators list. And he's also in Mortgage Professional America's Young Guns, as well as being in the 40 under 40 with the National Mortgage Professional magazine. And I got a funny hunch that he's going to be on that list for a while because he doesn't look for a day over 25. So Mark, hey, thanks for coming on here. I know you got a busy schedule, a lot going on. So thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Jeffrey. Appreciate it.
Well, tell us about your business. You do a great job, obviously doing a ton of volume in a short period of time. So I'm sure the first thing people are most interested in is just hearing how it is that you're growing your business and doing so much volume.
Sure. So I guess one of the basic things that I've done in my business is employed different systems to just be efficient with your time and keep people up to date and to really give a good experience throughout the process, right?
Absolutely. You're based in New York, right?
Yeah, I'm here in New York City area. I'm actually in the Bronx, which is one of the boroughs of New York City. So,
is that pretty competitive?
Yeah, it's been it's super competitive market. You actually see a lot of new originators coming in, trying to grab market share and whatnot. I appreciate the competition, and it just drives me to keep going harder.
Kick him out of there, man. Give him that New York attitude. Awesome. Hey, one quick heads up, since we are streaming live, I failed to mention this prior to we got started. As we may get questions from the audience, there is a small delay here between you and I actually talking and when it is live on the stream there. But hey, if you are watching, let me know in the comment section. Just hit pound live. Let me know that you're on the live broadcast. Just type in the comments the pound sign followed by the word live. If you happen to be watching the replay, let me know that too. Hit the pound replay, or I'm sorry, type pound replay in the comments section. So, well, Mark, if I understand right, a lot of your business comes from realtor referrals and a lot of repeat business. Is that right?
I would say probably about 70% or so comes from realtor referrals, and then another 20% or so comes from past client referrals, and the rest is from, whether it's social media or ads I'm doing or whatnot, or just my reviews that I see on Zillow. I actually have, I'm top rated in my area in terms of Zillow reviews. So I keep on trying to build those up. I think I'm at about 130 right now. So always want to show up at the top.
So you got 130 reviews on Zillow?
Yep, 130 5-star reviews. So when you look up, Bronx, New York, mortgage lenders on Zillow, I'm the top person that comes up there. So, and it's important, that's because people are finding me directly through there and coming to me directly through there. But even when someone refers me, they're going to be looking me up anyway, right? Just to verify that I'm a good originator, that, who the referral is sending over is sending someone good. And they verify with all those reviews, and it just gives them the confidence to actually come to my office, come see me. And that's the main benefit from it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a big deal. I don't, I don't know about everybody else, but if we're not all working hard at getting social proof online, because that's the first place people go to look us up. Can you talk a little bit about how you, I mean, that's a lot of reviews, man. Is there a certain process or steps you have in place that help you to capture that? How do you
So, I mean, I never leave anything to chance for the most part, right? So you want to have a system in place, and systems don't necessarily need to be very complicated, right? So, you know, one of the systems I have is my email signatures. So you have like those preset signatures you can put in your Outlook. And one of them is to ask for reviews upon closing. So I congratulate them again, tell them I look forward to any referrals from their friends and family, and ask them for a referral, and I give the link directly. So it makes it really, really easy for them. And I follow that up with a phone call advising them that I'm going to be sending that email. So, you know, you want to try to increase that conversion as much as possible. So I also ask them for it in the beginning of the process. I tell them if it's good, you know, if I give them a good process, if they're happy with my services, I ask them to just write me a good review online. So I tell them up front, I tell them at the end if they're closing, and then I send them the email. So
nice. So you're planting that seed early, it sounds like, in the loan app process. Yeah,
exactly. And I don't even get a huge percentage of people that actually do it. I think I get maybe 30% or so of people that I send the email to actually do it, right? But that percentage is a lot higher than it would be if I didn't have those systems in place. So,
and then how much do you know about does Zillow? I have not studied Zillow a lot in terms of reviews and placement. Is there algorithm based on volume? Is that, as far as you know, what helps push you up?
As far as I know, it's simply based on your rating in terms of how many stars you have for your reviews. So it goes from a 0 to a 5-star scale, and based on how many reviews you have, and based on the area that the person is searching in. So I won't come up at the top if they're looking somewhere outside of the Bronx, because most of my reviews are based in the Bronx area.
Do you push them right to Zillow to post the review, or do you try to capture it and then pass it along to Zillow in case it's not a 5-star review?
Yeah, I mean, as part of my CRM, right, I have like a simple survey that goes out, and they'll respond to that first. And a lot of times, if I'm kind of questionable how they're going to answer it, I wait for that to come back, an idea of what the response will be, and then I'll send them the email asking for the Zillow review with the Zillow link. And there's some people where you know they're not going to write you an amazing review, and you just don't send it to those people. You know, you don't send it to everyone, but for the most part, most of my clients are, you know, raving fans. So definitely send it to them.
Okay, that's a great detail. So you actually survey them first to kind of filter out in case there's some feedback that's not as positive, and then you've got a phone call in there encouraging them to go on to Zillow then and post. Is that right?
Correct. I mean, I pretty much have a good idea of who I have to feel out first. So I would say probably about 70% of them I already know they're going to write an amazing review. But there's the other 30% where I'm not too sure. And then sometimes people surprise you and they fill out my CRM survey and it comes out amazing. I'm like, all right, great. I'll send you the link.
I lost your audio. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay. Oh, you're back. Good. Any insight or suggestions you can make about questions you've learned to ask on your survey that seem to help get you more response? I know surveys can be really hard to collect from people. Anything that you've learned over the years from surveying that's helped bump up getting response back?
Are you referring to the one that I sent out through my CRM?
Yeah.
Up front, or? That one is pretty generic. I think I changed it a little bit. It simply has like a star scale, and then they can add a few comments. So you want to make that one really easy because you don't want them to invest their time there. Just to give you a good idea of like what their response will be. You want them to really elaborate and really do a good job on the Zillow one that's public. Did I lose you?
No, I really, it's my fault. I'm watching a second screen. I'm watching the actual live stream, and that's like a couple moments behind. So no, it's not you. It's
okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Not you, it's me. Yeah. Okay, cool. Hey, let's talk about your realtor partners. We're gonna have a lot of realtors that are gonna watch this interview and which I think is awesome because they can see what relationships, should look like between a lender and a real estate partner. Can you talk about your more established relationships, maybe how those started, maybe some bumps in the road you experienced, but how those things made the relationship stronger?
Sure. So a lot of my original long-lasting relationships started with boots on the ground, going to open houses, being in the dirt with them, and them really seeing me, grinding it out with them, side by side. Most of my relationships now, I don't see a ton of people face to face unless it's at a big, event that we're going to together or one of the big annual parties I throw. Most of the correspondence I have is via phone, text, video, social media, whatnot nowadays. But the one thing you have to do with your partners is always know that they can reach you. It's such a simple thing, to be honest with you. I have everyone saved in my phone. So when there's a realtor that calls me, I respond no matter what. If I'm on the phone, if I'm busy or if I'm with a client, I'll pick up, say, hey, what's the one? Can I call you back in 5 minutes? And that simple response to acknowledge them and make them feel important really makes a difference. You know what I mean? If they have to wait an hour or a few hours for you to respond to them, that's not okay. They're calling someone else. You know what I mean? Things are just too accessible nowadays.
How many relationships would you say you can count on to bring you business throughout the year?
I mean, I looked at my stats, and I think I had referrals from over 100 agents last year. So, wow. I deal with a couple like high producing agents that they give me a good amount of business per year, but most of them are an average agent, does about 3 or 4 transactions a year. So, maybe I closed, 1 to 3 deals with a person, on average.
All right. So here's a curveball for me. So it sounds like the bulk of your business isn't coming from 3 or 4 realtors. You're not relying on just 3 or 4. No. You're getting the bulk from realtors that, aren't in the top echelon, aren't doing the bulk of the business in the Bronx. Very cool.
And that's kind of planned on purpose as well, because I never wanted to have my business rely on one person. Because if they're not doing good, then I'm not going to do good. Or if that relationship doesn't work out at some point in time, then that hurts my business. You know what I mean? So that allows me to really be genuine with everything I do and not do it for the purpose of their business. You know what I mean?
So how did you, 100 realtors that referred business. I got to take you back here a few years. Well, how long have you been in the business now? When did you start?
About 8 years. It's 2011, about mid-year 2011 I started.
That's it. Amazing. And I think you started when you were like 12, right?
I was 22, I believe.
Wow. Mark, congratulations, man. This is awesome. So how, over the last 5 years, you really have made a huge jump. How did you go from that first 3 years to this last 5 years? What was it that really started to kick this thing in high gear for you?
Sure. I mean, I think in terms of percentage wise, my first few years were the biggest years because I would have 100% plus growth. Now my growth is, somewhere around 15 to 25% on average per year. But I think it's just being consistent. And I take a lot of time stepping aside from my business and really work on my business, not in it. Like, most people do. They're always worried about individual files, and individual files are important, right? That's how we make our money. But how you really got to grow is you got to take your time and, read, magazines, read the Scotsman Guide, read different top producer articles where they're telling you what they do, what systems they use, and just get different ideas to employ in your business. And there's a ton of great ideas out there, right? And you're not going to use all of them, but it just spurs your thinking. And that's something I've always done. And that's the part of my business I enjoy the most, to be honest with you, is really taking those things and tweaking my business and figuring out how I could take it to the next level, how to improve my process. You're
definitely a student of professional growth. Totally makes sense about, working on your business. What you've expressed, Mark, is something for probably the past, about 12 months now. I've been trying to work with loan officers and helping them shift their thinking from relying on 3 to 5 realtors every month and, you know, go wide, so to speak.
Sure.
How do you go? I know this didn't happen overnight. How do you go from working with a few agents to where you're at getting referrals from as many as 100 agents? Can you kind of walk us through over the years how you built that number up?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had I realized early on that our CRM would be really, really important in my business. So I've always been growing that database of realtors and whatnot. So my assistant takes care of that part. She updates my CRM and adds those agents, and people move, so you have to update their information. You know, realtors don't typically stay put for a long period of time. And you know, I'll do like email blasts where I'm blasting 5,000 realtors at a time with an update. And you know, you're not going to get a ton of business directly, but you're becoming top of mind, right? So maybe they're not responding to you right away, but your name is in their head now. Or I post on social media. I remember when I first, my first few years in the business, I was starting to do, more volume, and I wanted to, shout my successes from the rooftops and show people I'm a big player now, even though I wasn't, right? But you have to act as if. And I would post a picture of, I would post a video, a picture on social media, and I would send an email blast with information on the closing I just did, right? So people are constantly getting these email blasts. They're constantly seeing on social media. So they can closing a ton of deals, right? And maybe it was, 5 deals a month at that point in time, but they're getting 5 different correspondences during that month showing them closing deals. And it just makes you look a lot bigger, and just helps you, because people want to work with people who are successful, right? You don't want to work with someone who's hungry for business, who has no business. You want to work with someone that's at the top of their game. And that's what I was always trying to do.
I agree. It may not sound like much, but it's the perception that it creates that you're working towards, especially with the from the marketing point of view. So totally makes sense now. What you've done is built over the years a huge list, and you just found creative ways to stay in front of that list. I would imagine your list will shrink from people either unsubscribing or maybe they're no longer in the business. What do you do to keep your list always growing?
So I'm always updating it, right? So, if I come across a new office, or if I come across, I have my assistant take care of that. So she'll scout offices and she'll scout their agent list, and then she'll just update it accordingly. So if they moved offices or emails bounced, I really hate when people opt out of my emails. It really hurts me personally. But it's part of the game. People opt out, but those people aren't going to give you business anyway. And you just keep adding more people to your list, and then you'll end up with a core group of people where, they want to see your content,
Very
but
good.
you never want to spam, right? You never want to,
right.
Just send out useless things, or, send them an email every other day. You don't want to do that. That's probably another key. I don't spam people.
You might have mentioned this and I didn't catch it. What's your frequency? How often do you email your list every week?
I would say probably do an email blast maybe twice a month, I would say, on average.
Okay.
Yeah.
But probably in the beginning it was a little bit more frequent because you were trying to create a certain perception, right?
Yeah, I think probably in the beginning was more like once a week or so. Yeah. Plus social media, plus seeing it at all the events I used to go to, which I don't go to a ton of events anymore. But it's just a perception that I'm everywhere, right?
Right.
So you want to create a brand for yourself.
What's your favorite social media channel? Or network? Which one of all the freaking networks out there, which one do you find you gravitate towards first?
For me, it's Facebook. I find out I have the biggest network on Facebook. As far as I could tell, most of the realtors I work with are more active on Facebook. Instagram is cool, but I find that to be more of like a personal platform. Mm-hmm. Not as much business. That'll be more top of mind awareness or whatnot. But Facebook's my key. I started doing YouTube videos. I started posting them on Facebook. Whenever I have closings that I go to, I post the pictures there of the closings and whatnot. So yeah, Facebook's definitely my key.
Have you tried video yet at your closings?
I do video on Instagram. So I'll do like the stories and I'll show, like, especially when I have like 3 or 4 closings in one day, I'll go back to back to back. And then it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 closings. And they're like, wow, like, I had one client that closed 3 deals. She did 3 refinances at once and she was holding 3 different piles of paper. And that was a cool one.
So you figured out that stories thing?
Yeah, stories are pretty good. I use stories more often on Instagram. And also, what's the other thing that you put on IGTV?
Yeah, the TV. Right.
Yeah, you'll find that Instagram tries to push that. So you'll be able to run ads through there as well, which is pretty cool. And you can do targeting and whatnot. So another thing I do is I'll make a video and I'll target it through, Facebook, and it'll also go through Instagram as well because I guess they're tied in together. And I could basically send it to my network. So all the realtors that I know are pretty much going to see it, and then their extended networks and my clients and whatnot. So it's pretty cool. I had a client that that came to me, was referred by someone, and they're like, I just saw your video yesterday. He's like, you're everywhere. I keep seeing your face. And that's what you want. You want people to keep seeing your face. So
that's another way you stay in front of your audience. It sounds like you're doing a lot of retargeting with ads.
Yeah, I started doing that more so in the past 2 years, I would say, to try and just keep that top of mind awareness. Just keep my face in front of people. And I never ask people for business directly. That's just not my style. I really hate. I don't understand how some originators go and think that they deserve the business, and they ask a realtor like, "Why have you given me business?" That's not my style. So I just try and stay in front of people. People already know I do a lot of business. They know I'm great. I have a good reputation. So if I could just be on top of their mind, then, that's the best I could ask for.
Yeah. We don't have to always make it that hard or actually that confrontational, because sometimes it can be confrontational with that.
And that's a turnoff too, for a lot of people as well, when you do it that way.
All right. I'm dying to ask about these parties. Is that something you can talk about? Is that?
Sure. So I've been doing this annual party every year for the past, I don't know, six years or so. And the real estate community here really looks forward to it because I throw the party of the year. And it's always a different theme. It's usually about 200 plus people, pretty much all realtors and whatnot. And, it's a really good time, open bar, food, entertainment. Then last year I had a Brazilian theme. I had Brazilian dancers come. The year before that, I had this really cool violinist that played the violin to house music, and he's jumping up and down and whatnot. Really cool. So I always have a different theme, cool venue and whatnot, and people really look forward to it. It's more so an appreciation event to people that I work with semi business.
That's interesting. Yeah, sounds like it's growing into a cult-like type status. Mark's parties here. Woo! Very cool. It. Let's talk a little bit about your business model. Can you tell us about the size of your team and how you're structured? Do you have a loan partner? Do you have assistants? Can you talk a little bit about the business structure?
Sure. So I have a really good team. I wouldn't be able to do what I do without them, right? I already work until 8, 9 o'clock at night, so I would just have to sleep here if I didn't have that help. But I have an LOA, which basically helps me to submit files and then collects conditions on files. And she communicates with attorneys and things like that. She's awesome. I have my front end admin, my executive assistant. She works on maintaining the relationship with the realtor partners in terms of the referrals. So she'll keep them up to date in terms of someone they referred. So either we scheduled an appointment for them to come in to get pre-approved, or we tried them 3-4 times if we can't reach them. And she just makes sure that they're up to date, that they're never in the dark when they refer someone to us. And I think that's a key part as well, because I know when I refer someone and I don't know what's going on, it doesn't give me a good feeling, right? You want to at least have some type of update, right? And then I have my processor. She's amazing as well. She's a superstar. And then she's the one, that works dedicated to all my files in terms of processing. So that's my structure. I have, 3 support staff. and I'm looking to add a fourth now.
For those who are watching, and let's say they're doing $1 million, $2 million a month, but they're stuck. That seems to be the number I find a lot of times with loan officers, particularly where they just can't get over the hump. What would be your best advice to them as far as how to, because you've been doubling your business year over year, those first 3 to 4 years, what would be your best advice to them on what they could be doing to get over the hump?
Sure. I mean, I think when I first got my first support staff member, I was doing about 25 million or so, maybe 25 to 30 million range. And I think that's the point where you really have to get someone, because, then you can't really be out there as much. But a lot of people get support staff too early, that they fall into the mindset that like, you need more help, but you should be able to do enough business at, 20 million or so where you don't really need someone. Yes, it would make your life easier, but are you being lazy at that point? Because you really want to, especially if you're a new originator, you want to learn everything about the process. You want to learn all the conditions. You want to learn everything that's being asked for, right? Because if you don't fully understand it, you can't, tell someone else to do something, right? So my first person that I added was the front end person that helps me with my realtor referrals and keeping them up to date. And I think that's probably like the key part at the beginning, is to make sure that all your referral partners are always in the loop with things. And then from there, as you grow, you want to have an LOA that can get your conditions. Like, I hate chasing conditions, and that's a huge help for me. That was a godsend when I did that. But I think you have to be kind of self-sufficient up until about 20 million before you start really looking to add the next person. Because one, you have that expense you have to worry about, right? And once you add someone, you definitely need to grow, because otherwise you're losing money. And that's my thoughts on that.
So if I hear you right, because a lot of times I'll see the first hire be someone that's working in the back end on the paperwork stuff. You kind of did the opposite in the sense of this person's going to help maintain the relationships that are worth most to you. Yeah.
And I don't, maybe that's not how you have to do it. That's not the rule. I think it's all subjective. At that point in time, I was still working, crazy hours. I was working weekends. I was working late nights, and I still do late nights. But I think you have to still be willing to really grind it out at that point in time. You can't really, go and have a margarita at 5 p.m. anymore. That was my first step. It worked for me. I'm not saying that that's the way it has to be done. But a process, an LOA really helps a lot as well. That's a huge help in terms of not having to chase paperwork down. So I agree with that as well.
So where do you see yourself now? Obviously you're past that hump. You're on to much bigger mountains now. What do you see as your next biggest obstacle you've got to work through and overcome to get to that next plateau you're reaching for?
So at this point in time, I have about a 75 loan pipeline of active loans in process. So I'm getting to a point now where, one processor just isn't enough. So I'm looking to add another processor, which might just be a processor, or they might be a hybrid between a processor and an LOA. But finding good people is really tough. You having the wrong person could really screw you up. So that's what I'm trying to do now, because you want to maintain the type of process that you want that gives people a good experience, gives the realtors a good experience, gives them a good time frame. And if you don't have enough staff, then you're going to have people coming to you asking what's going on. You're going to be reactive with your business, and you never want to be reactive, right? I always want to try and be in a place where I'm proactive, where I'm asking the agent and whatnot, when can we close? Is the seller ready? You never want them chasing you down. At that point, you're done. You're not getting any more referrals from them, at least until you close that transaction, right? So you definitely want to keep the process going at a good pace.
Have you found a particular source or method that works well for you when it comes to recruiting? Is there, what's been your best luck so far in finding good people? Has it been just word of mouth? Have you been playing the role of headhunter? What's worked for you so far?
I've got really lucky so far, to be honest with you. I've been really blessed. My first hire was was a good friend of another friend of mine. And so that was an easy fit. They were looking for employment. I needed some help. It was a good match. Second person, a resume landed on my desk. I wasn't necessarily looking to hire someone, and it was sitting on my desk for about 2 weeks until I made the phone call. And she's been amazing. That was a godsend. And then my processor, she was, a company processor at that point where she, dealt with other LOs, and I had her for a period of time, and then I grew, and then I took her on all by myself. So far I've been really lucky, to be honest with you. Now I'm having to go to, LinkedIn or, different recruitment websites to try and find someone. And it's a pain in the ass. It really is. And you get a ton of unqualified people. Recruiting someone isn't cheap either. All those websites, if you really want to get, in front of people, in front of good people, you're going to be paying a few $1,000s at least a month to try and do that.
Wow. I had no idea it's gotten up to that high. I remember when all that stuff first started, it was so inexpensive to post online. Man, what an investment.
Yeah.
Let's swing back around and talk a little bit about your database. Obviously, that's an integral part of your business. We've spent time talking
Sure.
about it on the realtor side. I think there's some things that you do with the consumer side. Can you talk about how you take care of your database when it comes to your clients, because it's a big part of how you get a lot of repeat business?
Yeah. So my CRM is really awesome. I use a CRM called Top of Mind. That's been really great. I'm able to put people on different campaigns. One of those campaigns is a 6-month drip after I pre-approve someone. So it helps you to increase conversion on those people you pre-approved to stay top of mind. Because just because you met with someone and you pre-approve them doesn't mean that they're sticking with you. So it increases that conversion. And then post-closing, there's a 5-year campaign I put people on where it sends them postcards and emails and things like that to stay top of mind. And then also I try my best to call people on their birthdays and loan anniversaries. I don't always get to it, but I try and make those personal connections as well. And, there's other systems that I'm just finding out now that are really good too, which you can put people on. There's a system called Agent Legend. You can create a custom campaign and, at certain periods of time or certain holidays, as long as they're on that campaign, they're going to get an automated voicemail or text message or email from you. And it really, takes a lot less time from you. It's more time investment up front, but, think about, you're not calling each person individually at that point, which is so time consuming,
Right.
Especially after years in the business, you have a huge database. So.
Interesting. I've heard of Agent Legend, and a lot of guys and gals that use it. I like what you just said and how you're using it in your business. A lot of the guys I see will use it for cold calling and things of that nature. So I would imagine with the way you're using it, you're not running into issues with FTC and all that. I mean, these are your clients that are hearing from you, and with the great job you do, I'm sure they're happy to hear from you.
Yeah. I mean, I link it up to like my Zillow account as well. So I don't call my Zillow leads, that I co-market with agents. So that's pretty much on autopilot with that program. And if I land one because of it, then great, because I'm not calling them anyway. So it's just a way that you always want to increase your conversion throughout each step of the process, right? And you always want to market yourself through each step of the process as well. So I'm always asking for referrals in my emails and over the phone and whatnot. And, you want to, you have listing agents in every deal, right? You want to stay in front of them. I add all those people to my database, right? Every agent I come across, they're added. And if they opt out, they opt out. But, it's a possibility for me to stay in front of them.
You just dropped another golden nugget there. Co-marketing with your realtor partners. Sure. I know you love talking about marketing. Can you get into some more of the particulars on the co-marketing aspects and the relationships that you have?
Sure. So I'll start by saying I hate the co-marketing with Zillow. It's somewhat of a waste of money, but it's more of just an investment into some of the realtors I work with to support them, right? Because I'm not calling these cold leads myself. And a lot of times they're not even calling them either. So it's just going to the garbage. But,
Right.
you know, if they send me a certain amount of business and something they want to try, you know, I'll do it with them for a period of time. And if we don't see results out of it, then you have to cut it, right? You can't just waste money. And I don't do it with a ton of people. I think I do it with, I don't know, about 7 people or so. But that stuff could really add up. So that's something else you want to be really careful with, is because you have a certain amount of money and you don't want to waste it. And if you're going to be spending it, you want to be spending it in the right place. So, I know people that are spending, you know, $4 or $5 grand a month, and they're doing a lot less business than I am. And my mind is just boggled, like how they do that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the big question is how you manage all this time wise. A lot of the people joining, you know, the Facebook group Agent Magnet, whether they're a loan officer or a realtor, when I ask them the question, what do they struggle most with marketing? They actually just say time management. How do you maintaining your sanity with everything you're doing?
I mean, I became really good at multitasking. And the different systems that keep me organized and whatnot. Like, for example, I have this sheet right here. These are all people this month that have an accepted offer. Okay. And that just helps me keep track of who I'm supposed to be reaching out to, following up with, and whatnot. But email is like the death of me. I hate email because it really like drags me so far down throughout the day, because you're constantly getting these emails and it's constantly, you know, like a firestorm. So I try my best not to get sucked into email, but that's the worst thing when it comes to me is managing my emails. But other than that, I try and prioritize things as much as I can, right? Because, you know, I don't answer every phone call that comes into my phone. You know, I answer a lot of them, especially if they're realtors. But if it's a random call and I'm trying to get something done, you know, I'll let it go to voicemail. My assistant's phone number is on my voicemail. They can reach out to her to schedule the appointment and whatnot. Because otherwise you get nothing done throughout the day, you know? I try and text as much as possible as well, because a text message response is so much faster than a phone call. Some people keep you on the phone for so long, you know, 15, 20-minute conversation for something you could do in a 3-line text message. So I try to utilize text as much as possible too. And I recently started to use BombBomb. BombBomb has been pretty cool. For those of you who don't know, it's a video platform where you can send like video text messages and whatnot, video emails. And that's been pretty cool as well, because if I want to congratulate someone on their loan approval or on their, you know, clear to close, I can send it to not only them, but to the realtors so they could see it as well. Makes you stand out. No one's doing that. And it limits that long phone call. You know what I mean? Because I can shoot the video in 30 seconds, whereas that phone call is going to take 5-10 minutes, and all that time adds up. You know, I looked at my phone the other day and I had over like 125 calls that day. You know, so just think about how much time it is on the phone. You know.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, you got to feed the engine to keep it going. So you're finding that a personalized video via email is accomplishing, sounds like, several things. Obviously, easy way to keep them updated because it's video. You maintain that intimacy, even though you're not belly to belly or actually on a phone. Let's talk about 2019. What's the biggest thing that you've learned in your business this year? Whether it's something you've done or have overcome. I don't know if BombBomb is something you've recently implemented or not, but what's the biggest thing you've learned in your business this year?
I mean, to be honest with you, starting this year, I mean, last year was a little bit tough in terms of we saw the market change a little bit. We saw rates going up. You know, you see all these tech companies try and steal our jobs, right? So, you know, that was a fear of mine, is that like, one, you know, commissions are trending down, right? Because all these online players are trying to, you know, cut corners and whatnot and make things cheaper. So in order to compete, you have to go down in price. And then they're trying to steal your business in the beginning, because I don't know if you realize, but if you send an email to someone, if I send an email to someone mortgage related, they're going to start to get all these advertisements from Quicken Loans and other places because they recognize that in your email. So it's more so for me, just trying to gain as much market share as I can and get as many opportunities. Like, I realize that I'm not going to land every deal, every client, right? But if I get in front of enough clients, then I'll get to the number I want to be at. And I used to get really upset when I used to lose clients. You know, someone had an accepted offer and they're trying to shop me or whatnot. And I used to really like ruin my day. And now I just recognize it's just part of the process. You know, if you do a certain amount of numbers, you're going to have a certain amount of people that won't go with you. And for whatever reason it is, you know what I mean? Or even if they don't go with you, you have to maintain your professionalism, because sometimes they'll come back to you. You know, these big lenders aren't that great, you know, and a lot of times you'll have people that get denied, and as long as you were professional and you told them you're still there for them, they'll come back. And, you know, I had that last month. She left me because Wells Fargo was her provider, and they were marketing to her, and she trusted them, and they were promising her the world. And I told her that they're probably not going to come through. And 2 months later, what happened? They fell through, and I got the deal afterwards, right? But now she's a raving fan, because now I'm overemphasizing that they couldn't do it. And what I said up front was true. So I was always going to be truthful and honest, even if it's not what they want to hear, right? And she really respected that, you know? So
very cool.
Always trying to increase your conversion.
And you talk about the beginning of the year compared to now. I mean, rates have dropped. I would imagine your world's on fire with refis right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely doing a good amount of refis right now. I could definitely be doing a ton more. I definitely need to add that extra support person to be able to handle it, and free up some more of my time to be able to target these refinances. But my main bread and butter and how I get most of my referrals is through purchases, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't want to, you know, lose sight of that and lose those relationships to go after something that's temporary. That's just a bonus, those refis, right? And you want to target those refis because you want to help your past client base. You want to help them save money. You don't want to, you know, sometimes, you know, I look at refis and I don't really want to do it, but if they're really gonna be saving a amount of money, that's when it really drives me to want to help them, right? If it's a nominal difference to me, you know, with closing costs and things like that, like I'll pitch it to them and I'll let them know and let them decide from there. But I have this one lady, she did a VA loan like a year or two ago. She's saving like $300 a month on her mortgage, not much out of pocket, and it's a no-brainer for her. So I love doing that, you know. But I'm not just going after everyone trying to be a refi machine.
You're not out there buying the refi leads and suddenly abandoning your partnerships. You're, of course, servicing your client base, which totally makes sense. But it's all about keeping those realtors first. Very smart. Very smart. And
any of the refis I do, they're all my past clients. I'm not buying any lists or anything like that.
Well, so we need to know, are you a Mets fan or a Yankees fan?
I am, of course, a Yankees fan.
In the Bronx. You can't...
Bronx Bombers, yeah.
Totally. Well, Mark, great stuff here. The last thing I want to talk to you about is I think a topic dear to your heart, and it's a strange one, I think. Maybe not. You have this appetite for coffee. Tell us about that.
Oh, I do. I have a big passion for coffee, and it's probably going to be my second career in my life.
Wow.
Running a coffee shop enterprise, hopefully. So like I've been to Costa Rica, I've been to other places, I've been to actual coffee plantations. I love the process of how you make it. I love to drink it, obviously. And I guess the reason why I love it so much is because I love being at a coffee shop and having that time to myself to, you know, read a book or work on my business. And I call it your third place to go, your third home, right? Because you have work, you have your house, and then you have the coffee shop. So that's always been my place to kind of really come up with my ideas and whatnot. So I suggest everyone goes to their local coffee shop, supports them, and starts working on their business for sure.
What would be your favorite book that you'd recommend to everybody? A book you've read that you think, hey, if there's one book you're going to read this year, make it this one.
Sure. My favorite author is a few books he wrote that I love, but it's Robert Greene and the 48 Laws of Power. I think that's an amazing book. It's not necessarily an easy read. It's kind of a big book, and you know, it's a little bit of a tougher read, but I think it really gives you insight in terms of how to deal with people, you know, personalities and dealing with certain situations. And it's a great book. I think that, you know, people should definitely check out.
Well,
that,
Mark,
and the Laws of Seduction as well. Another book by Robert Greene. The Laws of Seduction.
Laws of Seduction.
Another great book.
Okay. Well,
and it's not just romantic.
There you have it from the barista, Mark Fisher. Mark, thanks so much for joining us and sharing what's helped you to become successful, getting into some details about your business that I know for some people isn't something that they always want to get into or let others know about, but you've been gracious. So I very much appreciate you coming on today and sharing your knowledge with us.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you on the next episode of the High Achiever Show.